Now, from a psychological point of view, this video is going to be such an interesting one, so stay tuned. Your conditionings are the invisible architecture of your current identity. They are these subconscious programs that dictate how you think, how you feel, how you act, and even how much love, how much money, how much success, and so on you allow yourself to receive. And all of these things, they are not random. They are not who you truly are. They are simply the learned patterns that your nervous system created throughout your entire life just to keep you safe. Every belief, every habit, every reaction that you repeat today began as an adaptation to something that you once couldn't control. So you were not born with self doubt. You were not born with your fear of failure. You were not born with the people pleasing and the addictions and the overthinking and the emotional avoidance and all of these aspects. You learned them. Your nervous system absorbed them as strategies and took them on as strategies to survive emotionally, socially, and sometimes even physically, right? Maybe you learned that love had to be earned, that safety came from silence, that validation only meant belonging, and that food was comfort, that scrolling and binging series 24/7 was relaxing, or that expressing yourself led to rejection, led to conflict, right? Led to a fight. And so your body, doing its job perfectly, of course, it adapted. Your brain adapted. It created programs, specifically conditionings, which we're going to talk about today, to ensure that you could stay connected, accepted, and safe. And to be honest, the truth is that your conditionings were never the problem. They were the solution at the time. They were the nervous system's way of protecting you in environments that didn't yet feel safe for your authenticity, for your prefrontal cortex to still take over. But what kept you safe back then is what keeps you stuck now, is what is self sabotaging you now. Because the nervous system doesn't automatically update its software when life changes, right? When you grow up. It keeps running the same scripts until you consciously rewrite them. And that's why, even when you know better, you still fall back into the same toxic loops. Awareness alone, while I always say awareness is 90% of the work, yes, but it is not enough. Most people forget about the rest of the 10%, which are the most important. Your body needs to experience something new enough times to believe that it is safe. And that is the remaining 10% that most forget. But it's still a crucial part of the inner work, if not the most crucial, right? Because if we've learned anything from the past years and from our own experiences and looking around us at other people, awareness doesn't get you anywhere. Awareness alone doesn't get you anywhere. Because otherwise, most people would already be grown and mature and evolved and super enlightened and operating from their higher selves, but most are not. So let's start at the beginning. Conditioning happens through repetition and emotion, which are two of the most powerful forces in our human brain. Every time that you repeat an experience, a thought, or a behavior with emotional charge, your brain wires it deeper. Right? And the stronger the emotion, the faster the learning. That's why traumatic experiences can form instant and lasting imprints, while positive change often takes more time because your brain is designed to prioritize survival over joy. So it learns faster from pain than from peace. But that also means that when you consciously pair new emotions with new patterns, and when you embody new states with intensity, presence, and even repetition, you can recondition yourself into expansion. You can use the same biological laws that created your past to create your future. From a scientific standpoint, conditioning happens through a process called associative learning. Your brain constantly links experiences with emotions, so when a situation feels similar to something that happened in the past, your subconscious automatically triggers the same emotional and physiological response, even if the present moment is completely different, right? If the situation at hand is completely different. That's why you might freeze when someone raises their voice at you. Even though you're not in danger now, your body remembers the association with, okay, somebody screaming at me, we have to freeze and we have to shut down. or why you might feel anxious when things are peaceful, because your nervous system associates calm with the buildup before chaos. You remember, okay, it was calm, and then something escalated, something exploded. So that's when we felt anxious. So that must be the same situation now, right? Your conditionings are not logical. They are emotional memories encoded in your body's physiology. Your body keeps the score. It always remembers, even when your mind, when you're conscious, doesn't. And from an embodiment perspective, this is what makes healing such a deeply somatic process. You cannot simply think your way into new patterns, because your body doesn't learn safety from logic. It learns it from experience, right? It learns it from familiarity, like we mention in every one of my videos. Every time you choose a new response and stay present with it, you're creating new data for your subconscious to integrate. Every time that you meet discomfort with regulation instead of reaction, your body learns that the new way is safe. Every time that you pause instead of pleasing, breathe instead of fighting, stay open instead of shutting down yet again, that is when your nervous system updates its programming, if done enough times. And this is what true reconditioning looks like. Not forcing and shaming yourself to be different, right? You're just making your programs worse, but teaching your system that it is safe to be different, that it is safe to push through and stay in that moment. And here's what's most powerful: conditioning doesn't only happen through trauma, it also happens through repetition of truth. Every time that you embody your higher self, even just for a few seconds, and every time you show up differently, your brain records that as evidence. Every time that you honor your boundary, every time that you regulate through your fear, every time that you act in alignment instead of in avoidance and distraction, every time that you do exactly as you said you would, every time that you keep your word, every time that you're building new habits, all of these things, you're literally building new neural pathways and emotional associations that say, this is who I am now. You're conditioning your system into authenticity. And authenticity is the highest frequency you can be at. That is where you truly create your reality. And this is why in my teachings I always say, your old patterns are not signs of failure. They're just proof that your nervous system is loyal to your old identity. It's still running programs that once kept you alive. But loyalty to the past will cost you alignment in the present and for your future. So it's a slight oxymoron because it contradicts itself in some way. I mean, something that's self sabotage is not loyal, right? Healing is about redirecting that loyalty, though, from your old self to your highest self. So it's about thanking the old pattern for protecting you and then teaching your body a new one that actually serves your expansion and your growth instead of your survival instincts. And when you understand conditioning through this lens, it stops being personal, right? It stops being this hard. You stop fighting yourself. You stop thinking that you're lazy and inconsistent and broken and all of these aspects. You realize that you're simply conditioned, and conditioning can be rewired, right? You're not fixed, you're not stuck, you're not doomed to stay the same. You're not your fear, you're not your trauma, you're not your anxiety or avoidance or control. All of these aspects are not your identity. You are the awareness underneath them, the consciousness that can choose to teach your system something new. Because you can choose every single day. From a manifestation standpoint, your conditionings determine your frequency as well. They shape what your reticular activating system filters, what your limbic system prioritizes, and what your subconscious believes is possible. If your conditioning says life is a struggle, your RAS will highlight struggle. If it says I am never chosen, I'm never the one, I'm never number one, your energy will unconsciously attract people who will confirm that story, that you're always number two, that you're never the one, that you're never chosen. If you say, I don't want that thing to happen, it will make damn sure that exactly that one thing will absolutely happen. But when you recondition your nervous system into safety and self worth and actual self trust, your perception shifts. You start to see opportunities instead of obstacles. You start seeing genuine love and unconditional love instead of rejection, and abundance instead of scarcity and lack and limitation. And that's not because the world suddenly changes around you, but because your internal filter did, right? Remember, as within, so without. Once your internal changes, your external will follow. That's universal law, even if it takes a while. And that is the essence of identity shifting. Your identity is just the sum of your conditionings, what you have practiced believing about yourself. When you change what you practice, you change who you become. The more you embody your desired state and not just think it, but actually feel it, actually breathe it, actually act from it, actually become it, the faster your nervous system rewires and your subconscious rewires. And then your subconscious begins to favor the new pattern because it starts to feel familiar. And once something feels familiar, what did we always say? It feels safe. And once it feels safe, what happens? It becomes automatic, it becomes your new default mode. That's when change stops being effortful and starts being effortless. And inside my Coming Home to Yourself membership, this is exactly what I teach you: how to identify, deconstruct, and recondition your subconscious patterns through embodiment and nervous system work. Not just so you can feel better, but so you can live better. Because when your body feels safe in authenticity, the highest frequency, everything else begins to align naturally because you're becoming the magnet to it all. You stop needing constant motivation because your system is wired for that consistency. You stop self sabotaging because safety no longer equals smallness. You stop chasing healing and actually start living it. You become it. So remember, your conditionings are not who you are. They are not who you learn to be. But who you learn to be can be unlearned. And who you truly are can be remembered. Healing is not becoming someone new, it's remembering who you were before you were taught to forget. And that's the power of reconditioning. It's about creating safety so that change becomes your body's natural choice. That's when you stop surviving and start creating. And that's when you stop reacting to life and start designing it yourself. That's when your embodiment becomes your default state and your desired reality becomes inevitable as a consequence. And that's when you finally come home to yourself.